Hello and welcome. This is Grant Hughes of Grant Hughes Investigates on YouTube. This channel evaluates all aspects of true crime. As you are aware, videos and live streams in this genre often discuss elements of crime that may be disturbing to some viewers. If necessary, take the precautions needed to avoid these feelings. Factual information related to cases is the key to fostering rational true crime discussions. Fortunately, you will find that here. Please hit the like button only once, share the video, and subscribe if you like my content. Thank you very much for watching.
Huh? It's the house!
Come on, man. What's wrong with you? Did you hear what I said?
Huh?
There's mosquitoes the size of bald eagles in that dadgum swamp.
Hello, freaks. Good news. Allison sent out emails yesterday saying that her father, she was her father's alibi back in the day, was arrested finally. I mean, I think it's an absolute travesty that it took so long to have him arrested for the murder of her mother, Nancy Galvani. Or Galvani, I mean. So it's like, yeah, it's a case that we talked about, I don't know, many times. Of course, you know, it's just, I mean, it's one of those ones that I always say it should have been solved a long time ago. This isn't one of those ones that should have lingered around. It's one of the most obvious cases I've ever seen. It's crazy. Let's see. So right here, it said, this is in the San Francisco East, I guess. A cold case that has lingered on for 40 years is in part because it was in the hands of a tiny police department in Foster City that was likely ill-equipped to investigate it, may finally be nearing justice for the victim. Police in Foster City on the San Francisco Peninsula arrested an 81-year-old man on Monday in connection with a murder that happened 43 years ago. Patrick Galvani, who has long been suspected of the murder of his wife, 36-year-old Nancy Galvani, is now facing a murder charge that he evaded for over 4 decades, thanks to new information or evidence that has not been disclosed by police. So I wonder what that is. The San Mateo County District Attorney's Office, which previously charged Patrick Galvani shortly after the 1982 murder, but later dropped the charge, cites recent developments in the case, which may have finally come due to a decade and a half of advocacy by Galvani's daughter, Allison. Now, she kind of like reached out to me a while ago, and then she came on. We've done like, I don't know, 2 or 3 shows where she's on, and I made a video about it. We'll play the video here in a minute, and you'll see how ridiculous it is that it wasn't solved. But while you're watching, you guys, if you wouldn't mind helping support the channel, I notice that we don't have a lot of people watching because it's not one of the big cases again. So if you have the ability to help support the channel, that would be awesome. It's always depressing when you start off 00000 for more than like 10 minutes, and it feels like it's never gonna, keep moving forward. We got our month end is coming up in, we got 4 more normal days and then the month end. Let's see. So Nancy Galvani had separated from her husband in the summer of 1982 as the couple was going through a divorce, and she was seeking custody of their daughter. She had taken Allison to live with her in a residence hotel in San Francisco Tenderloin District and had filed a restraining order against her husband, who she claimed had threatened her life and once put a pillow over her face during a fight. But what we should do is just play. I'll just play the video here. Hey, thanks, John Wolf and Sandy Shirley.
Happy soon to be Turkey Day.
That's right. It's coming up. Thank you. All right, so let's just play the video that I made about, I don't know, seems like less than a year ago. I mean, time goes by so far. It could have been a year and a half. I have no idea. Patrick Vincent Galvani and Nancy Wurmbach were married on May 16, 1973. In 1976, Nancy gave birth to a daughter named Allison. She would turn out to be their only child. Their marriage eventually began to crumble, and Nancy filed for divorce after incidents of physical violence. They temporarily were awarded joint custody while the divorce worked its way through the system. On August 8, 1982, Pat used their joint custody arrangement to lure Nancy to his residence. Nancy's body was found in San Francisco Bay the very next day. The medical examiner determined Nancy had been strangled to death, and her partially nude body had been zipped inside her own sleeping bag. Her body had been weighed down with a 19.5-pound cinder block. In 1982, Nancy filed for divorce from her husband Patrick. She filed for divorce based in part because of physical abuse she suffered at the hands of Patrick. This abuse was documented by Nancy, Patrick, and their daughter Allison. First, let's take a look at two of the entries in Nancy's diaries.
He grabbed the book from me, became wild, and began beating me with the book. I tried to run away, but he kept hitting me in the face with the book, breaking my glasses. I ran to the bathroom where he kept coming at me saying no divorce, and wildly threw me into the bathtub, where I suffered bruises over my body. The last incidents of beating occurred in April when Pat beat me in front of Allison, causing her extreme distress. She insisted I sleep with her, and brought me Band-Aids for my scratches and bruises. This occurred in April 1982.
In the San Francisco Examiner on August 19, 1982, it states, in her application for the restraining order, Nancy Galvani claimed her husband assaulted her last April after she disciplined their 5-year-old daughter, Allison.
He became furious, threw me to the floor, and struck me with his fist, causing bruises and cuts. I tried to run away from him. He assaulted me again, and then when I started to scream, he put a pillow over my face and held it there for a period of time.
According to a San Francisco Examiner article from August 19, 1982, in a reply to Nancy's allegations, Patrick Galvani seems to confirm what she said by saying,
I put a pillow on her face to quiet her down and to deaden the noise for the neighbors.
right.
My wife then conked out.
And here is what Allison remembers of that incident.
So yeah, I heard my parents fighting, and I remember thinking like this is worse than normal, and I ran into my parents' bedroom. My mother was lying on the bed. My father was like straddling her. His knees were like pinning down her arms. And there's this large square Laura Ashley pillow, and he was pressing it over her face. And I was then begging him to stop doing that. He would lift up the pillow and then put it back down. When he would lift it up, I remember saying like, listen to your daughter. I was like begging him to stop. He did stop. And I think that was the final act of violence that she viewed, according to what she told her friends, as an attempted murder, that and that he would have murdered her if I hadn't been there.
And to add more proof of abuse, Nadia Martinelli, who recalled Nancy Galvani telling her sometime in April of 1982 that Pat Galvani beat and abused her. She saw bruises on Nancy Galvani, and that Patrick Galvani had told Nancy, I'll kill you before you get custody of Allison. And then Nell Tanner stated in a 1982 Foster City Police Department interview by Detective Robert Nelson that Nancy Galvani had confided she was afraid of her estranged husband and had limited contact with him. Because of their joint custody agreement, Allison was staying with her father, Patrick Galvani, the weekend Nancy went missing. On Saturday, August 7th, 1982, Patrick Galvani calls Nancy to tell her she needs to pick up Allison by 8 p.m. on August 8th, instead of the morning of August 9th as previously planned. Nancy writes in her journal in advance of things she was going to do. Nancy wrote,
Picked up Allison Sunday 8 p.m. instead of Monday 8:30 at his insistence. I asked if he could then drop her off at 8 p.m. as I had committed myself to service at a residence gathering, but he said, "You want her? You always have to pick her up and drop her off. I never will."
On Sunday, August 8, 1982, between 7:30 and 8 p.m., 4 witnesses, Melody Mills, Howard Histed, Catherine Merschel, and Nell Tanner, see Nancy leave her Civic Center residence hotel in her yellow Buick to pick up Allison. According to Nell Tanner, on Sunday, August 8, 1982, Pat called Nancy to have Nancy pick up her daughter at 8 p.m. that evening and gave an excuse that he had to fly out on business that midnight. Nancy had expressed frustration at this change in plans since she had been working on the hotel's taco party scheduled for the evening of Sunday, August 8, 1982. Nell Tanner and Catherine Merschel were at the taco party that evening and noted that Nancy had not returned from picking up her daughter. Another witness, Howard Histed, reported the same thing, that he saw Nancy leaving the hotel on Sunday night, and she told him that her husband had asked her to pick up Allison Galvani. Mills recalled being in the resident lobby on August 8, 1982 at about 7:30 p.m. with Nancy, Michael, Diane, and other residents. They were talking, and about 7:30 hours, Nancy Galvani said she had to pick up her baby. Darlene Mills gave similar statement that Nancy told her she had to leave, pick up Allison Galvani at 8 p.m. Sunday evening from Pat Galvani. Kay Fredericks, a tenant of the Civic Center resident, revealed that Nancy Galvani told her she tried to arrange with Pat to pick up Allison earlier on Sunday, August 8, 1982, but Pat Galvani would not let her. Then, on August 8th, Patrick Galvani sent Allison to Patrick Moriarty's house to spend the night. Moriarty is Patrick Galvani's uncle. Yes. This is suspicious because Nancy was supposed to pick up... Yeah, I mean, so that's why he didn't want to do it earlier in the day, because he needed to get Allison out of there, and he sent Allison, I think, to his uncle's house, who has the same first name as he does. Allison at Galvani's house that same evening. Now Allison will not be with Patrick Galvani when Nancy arrives. So let me rewind. Galvani would not let her. So you got to think about, like, why is he sending Allison away if Nancy's coming to pick her up? He just didn't want to witness her out. I mean, that's why this case to me is so obvious. It's just, it's almost unreal. Then on August 8th, Patrick Galvani sent Allison to Patrick Moriarty's house to spend the night. Moriarty is Patrick Galvani's uncle. This is suspicious because Nancy was supposed to pick up Allison at Galvani's house that same evening. Now Allison will not be with Patrick Galvani when Nancy arrives.
I had spent very little time with my father that entire summer, and then he also didn't discuss with me like my mother normally would if I was going to a friend's house, like my age, like a peer, another 5-year-old's house. I just heard him on the phone arranging for me to spend the night Sunday night at his uncle's house. When he hung up the phone, I told him I didn't want to do that. It struck me as odd because I'd hardly seen him all summer. And even though he was fighting for custody of me, then for arranging me to spend the night somewhere else. And I pleaded with him not to send me to his uncle's house. And he said, as a compromise, I would go to his uncle's house just for a few hours, and I wouldn't have to spend the night. But then once he had me at Uncle Pat's house, it was getting darker and darker, and he wasn't coming to pick me up the way I expected he was. A telephone call came in. My uncle Pat spoke to my father and then relayed to me when he hung up the phone, oh, your dad's car broke down. He can't get you today after all, so you have to spend the night. And I remember saying, like, well, can't he take a taxi to get me? And Uncle Pat said, oh, no, he has to stay with the car to make sure the mechanics don't steal it.
The fact that Allison stayed with Patrick Moriarty on the night of the 8th is corroborated by an affidavit of Edward Schneiderman. The affidavit discusses a conversation between Schneiderman and Patrick Moriarty on or around May of 1985. Schneiderman states,
Mr. Moriarty informed me that Allison was with him at his apartment the night of Nancy's murder. He said he had been asked to babysit Allison by her father. Mr. Moriarty went on to say the San Francisco detectives became confused because Allison referred to her parents by first name, and when asked where she was the night of the murder, Allison replied she was with Pat. The investigator mistakenly assumed it meant Patrick Galvani, according to Mr. Moriarty. Mr. Moriarty added that if the police had realized Allison was in fact with him and not her father, their investigation would likely have not hit a dead end.
My father
That's
had
crazy.
requested that I call him Pat and also my uncle Pat. And so I didn't refer to my father as dad. I called my mom Mommy, but I called my father Pat. And then the uncle was also Pat.
And then, on August 9th, 1982, a day after Nancy Galvani was supposed to pick up Allison at Patrick Galvani's house, the nude body of an unidentified woman was found floating in San Francisco Bay off the San Mateo Bridge. The body was zipped in a sleeping bag, weighed with a concrete block. The woman's ankles were tied with white boating line, according to Foster City Police. The block was tied around the bag at the woman's waist. County coroner officials said today the woman had strangulation marks on her throat. There were no apparent stab marks or gunshot wounds. The woman, said to be 28 to 40 years old, had been in the water up to 2 days, according to Foster City Police Chief John J. Norton. The barely submerged body was found where the high-rise section of the bridge clips at the East Bay side. The 5'7" woman with reddish-brown hair weighed about 160 pounds. There were no identifying marks on the body. And then in another article, an autopsy has revealed that strangulation killed the woman whose nude body was found floating in San Francisco Bay in a sleeping bag weighed with a concrete block. The woman may have been strangled by hand or by a length of white 1/2-inch boating rope of the type that was also tied around her waist, apparently as a handhold, Foster City Police said, for carrying her. A length of similar boating line was tied around the foot of the zipped green sleeping bag. A concrete construction block was tied to the woman's waist. Police were unable to establish the woman's identity yesterday. They expected results of fingerprint checks with the FBI and the State Department of Justice today. The autopsy showed that the woman suffered a broken neck and was bludgeoned on the left side of her head. She also sustained wounds on her left hand that may have been caused when she tried to defend herself from her attacker or attackers. So the papers had put out a sketch, and as you can tell, that sketch was later identified to be Nancy Galvani. And the reason that somebody identified Nancy is as follows. Although Nancy never came to pick up Allison as Galvani had asked, Galvani failed to report his estranged wife missing. Nancy's friend called Galvani on August 11th to ask where Nancy was, but Galvani still did nothing. On August 11th and August 12th, the Foster City Police Department released sketches of the unidentified murder victim to the newspapers. Another of Nancy's friends called Galvani, insisting that the sketch looked like Nancy. Galvani finally reluctantly agreed to file a missing persons report. Thursday, August 12, 1982, at 9 p.m., an individual with the initial CM called Patrick after seeing a sketch in the newspaper that looked like Nancy Galvani. Asked if Pat Galvani had heard from Nancy, Pat Galvani stated no. Pat told her he found Nancy's car in his garage that day, but did not know how long it had been there. CM suggested that Pat Galvani file a missing person report. Pat seemed reluctant, but said he would the next day. So you got to just think it's crazy that, he's expecting her to come over to pick up Allison, but Allison's not there because he sent Allison away. And you would think he would have filed a missing person report if Nancy never showed up, because she was supposed to show up to pick up Allison. But, so it's obvious that he really just wanted to lure her there to kill her. I mean, it's so, like, circumstantially, I don't think there's a jury in the world that wouldn't go, yeah, that's obvious. On Friday, August 13th, 1982, at 10:45, Pat Galvani filed a report with the San Francisco Police Department. You would think, however, that he would have filed a report earlier, since she apparently would have never came by to pick up Allison, the daughter that they both shared, that he had sent somewhere else that night, even though he knew Nancy was supposed to pick her up. And Nancy's vehicle was in one of Patrick's garages. So on August 8, 1982, the same night that Allison was supposed to be picked up by her mother Nancy, but Allison was over at her uncle's house, Nancy's vehicle was spotted in the driveway of 1871 she Green made it Street, there. She made
Oh.
it.
The house that she once shared with Patrick. Now, Mrs. Mead observed the vehicle being parked there. She claims she saw Nancy's white over yellow car on Sunday, August 8th at about 8:20 p.m., parked in front of 1871 Green Street. Miss Mead recalled it because she had just returned from a movie and was looking for a parking spot. Subsequent reports indicate the Foster City Police Department confirmed the movie in theater Mrs. Mead stated she was at that evening. Patrick Galvani owned two residences, 1871 and 1865 Green Street. The 1871 address is where Nancy Galvani's vehicle was seen on August 8th at around 8:20 p.m. However, the very next morning, one of the tenants, Miss Leonardis, who lives at 1865 Green Street, noticed that Nancy's vehicle was parked in the garage at 1865.
I mean, you guys hear that? I mean, that's just crazy. So the night before, it's right there. Allison goes missing. Nancy goes missing. Allison is with Pat Moriarty, the uncle. And then sometime in the middle of the night, at some point, the car was moved over to the garage in this house over here. So because Nancy Galvani went missing and was killed that evening, it seems like common sense Anybody there?
that Patrick Galvani is the one who moved the vehicle into the other property that was being rented at 1865, and he was living at 1871. So it makes you wonder why he moved the vehicle from the driveway to the other residence. Later in the evening on the 9th, the same day that Miss Leonardis saw Nancy's vehicle parked in the garage under 1865 Green Street, Allison observed the same Buick being moved into 1871 Green Street late in the evening. Obviously, it's Patrick moving the vehicle from 1865 Green Street to 1871 Green Street because Nancy isn't alive at this point.
After I spent the night at Uncle Pat's house, then the following night, I was already in bed asleep, and I heard like very slowly, the hum of an engine, and I looked outside my shutters and I saw the tail end of my mother's Buick going into the garage at 1871. And I ran to my I was terrified. Like I had a sense it wasn't my mother coming to pick me up. It was in the middle of the night. I ran to my father's bedroom, but he wasn't there. And I was just remember being absolutely terrified.
And some interesting information regarding Nancy's clothing. The Foster City Police Department found what was determined to be Nancy's clothing and glasses matching that described the day before by Howard Histed and Melody Mills. We know that Nancy's body was found partially nude, and they actually found the clothing she was wearing before she left to go pick up Allison, and observed by various people wearing at the house.
They brought both of these witnesses, so they brought... how is this guy not arrested all those years? Every time I hear this, it makes me just as angry. Her clothes are found inside of, Patrick's house. And then her body is found partially nude. Her car was parked out front. She had her daughter sent to, or he had his daughter sent to Uncle Patrick's house so that he could, he could kill her, obviously, right? Because Nancy was supposed to pick up Allison. Allison's not even there. The car parks out front. She obviously enters the home. And then Patrick moves the car into the garage of the other home that he owns. And then the next day, after Allison comes home, he moves the car back into that place's garage. And then they find her clothing, law enforcement does, Nancy's clothing inside the house, the same clothing that all the witnesses that saw her earlier in the day saying that the time had changed to pick up Allison, the clothes that she was wearing was found inside of his house. So it's just, to me, it's absolutely ludicrous that an arrest wasn't made. I mean, I'm glad that they, but he's 81 years old. He got to live a full, long life, and he didn't deserve any of that. Histed and Melody Mills to the Green Street address, where both stated the clothes at the house were the same as those that Nancy was wearing when they last saw her on Sunday evening, August 8, 1982. So now we have Nancy's vehicle that was been moved around from 1865 to 1871 garages, and we have her clothing inside the house of Patrick Galvani. Now here is an interesting piece of information told by Allison, how her father had already enrolled her into a different school while Nancy was still alive,
Right.
and told Allison about it, but also told Allison not to tell her mother.
When my mother was still alive, my father registered me at a different school and told me not to tell my mother. She was murdered then just a couple weeks later, and he had me go to the new school he had enrolled me in.
Years later, Patrick Galvani stated in a recorded interview,
He said, if he had done it, he would have done it for me, and he was planning it, but he was going to kill her the next day, but someone beat him to it, so therefore he didn't kill her.
yeah, that's it. Isn't that crazy? I mean, that's just the most obvious case I've ever seen. It's ridiculous. But hey, guys, we're on one of those massive lulls again. I always get worried about that whenever I play a video or something like that. We're currently at 1/10 of a nightly goal, so if you guys have the ability to help support the channel, that would be awesome. Instead of having a long night of struggle, asking, this would be nice to have one night on a case that we finally have solved, that we don't have to do that. All right, so right over here, it's police in Foster City. We've already gone through this part. Nancy Galvani had separated from her husband in the summer of 1982 as the couple was going through a divorce, and she was seeking custody of their daughter. She had taken Allison to live with their residents in a residence hotel in San Francisco, Tenderloin. That's the hotel she was staying at with her daughter, and that's where the people were that saw her with the clothing. Hey, thank you, Amber and Wild Bill Wassman. She had taken Allison to live with her in a residence hotel in San Francisco, Tenderloin District. She had filed a restraining order against her husband, who she claimed had threatened her life and once put a pillow over her face. He even admits doing that. The daughter, then 5 years old, was staying with her father for the weekend, and Nancy Galvani was planning to pick her up on Monday. But Patrick Galvani allegedly called on Sunday, August 8, 1982, to ask her to pick Allison up early, a day early. So she left a dinner party at the residence hotel to do that. And obviously she's wearing the clothing that they found in the house, Patrick Galvani's house. According to a neighbor who spoke to LA Times in 2014, Nancy was annoyed at her husband and said as she left the building lobby, "I will be right back. I'm going to pick up Allison from her father." Nancy Galvani was never seen alive again and was then found by fishermen the next day floating in the bay near the San Mateo Bridge. Her body was stripped down to underwear and stuffed in a sleeping bag and weighed down by a rope attached to a cinder block. The cause of death was asphyxiation by strangulation. And there he is right now. Patrick Galvani after Monday's arrest. Isn't that awesome? Alison Galvani, now professor in epidemiology at Yale University and the founding director of the Yale Center for Infectious Disease Modeling and Analysis, did not suspect her father during her childhood, though she recalls a childhood friend bringing up her mother's murder and the rumor of her father's role in it. Patrick Galvani avoided going to trial for the murder because, as the San Mateo County DA at the time, Keith Sorensen, told the San Francisco Examiner, the case was too circumstantial. No. There isn't any jury in the world. You didn't want to have a potential loss. There's no jury in the world, after hearing this stuff, would they have not found him guilty. That this is so obvious. I mean, just look at let me ask you guys something. If you were on a jury and the facts of the case that are proven are that Patrick Galvani asked Nancy Galvani to pick up their daughter Allison a day early. Allison, the daughter, was sent to an uncle's house that has the same first name, ironically. And then witnesses even see Nancy's car at the residence of Patrick Galvani's house. And then it turns out, like the next morning, the vehicle was in the garage of the other house he owned right next door. And then that same day, Nancy's body is found floating in the bay, partially nude. And then when police come and investigate, they find Nancy's clothing inside Patrick's house. I mean, what are you talking about? About circumstance? You can't get stronger. Most cases are circumstantial evidence. Okay, I don't care if there's a drop of DNA. That's what people these days are idiots. And they always have to have a DNA sample or something like that, or it's just not. But this one is so simple, right? And then it even turns out that Patrick Moriarty, the uncle, said that, Allison said she was staying over at Patrick's house. And they thought, oh, that's her dad. Okay, so she was here and didn't see anything. Okay. But it turns out he was at the uncle's house, and the uncle has said that, and they know that. It's like, what in the hell are you guys doing? Why would she be staying overnight at the uncle's house? What purpose did Patrick Galvani have to send Allison over to the uncle's house if Nancy was supposed to pick her up early? There isn't any explanation that's rational. And for anybody out there that would go, I don't know, it could be, what is the other answer? She got out of the car and then somebody else strangled her to death, brought her over to, and drove her in her, it's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Okay, it makes me angry. As circumstantial cases go, though, this one seems beyond the pale. Oh, there you go. Okay, that's exactly right. Patrick Galvani avoided going to trial, said over here, because the case was, it's just too circumstantial, and the prosecutor would have less than 50% chance of winning. That's bullshit. He added, I'm not saying for a minute that he's innocent. As circumstantial cases go, though, this one is beyond the pale. Nancy Galvani's Buick, which she left the Tenderloin in the night before she was found in the garage of the Pacific Heights home of Patrick Galvani. It was living. There were also statements to friends and family members about her husband threatening her, and her statements to police about him punching her and smothering her with a pillow, leading to the restraining order she obtained in June 1982. She had also reportedly told friends she believed Patrick would kill her if she succeeded in getting primary custody of their daughter. Still, there were no witnesses who saw her. I mean, there's way more than what this article is saying. Still, there were no witnesses who saw her with Patrick the night she disappeared, and seemingly there was little physical evidence linking him to the crime. Patrick, according to court records obtained by the LA Times, told investigators that Nancy was paranoid and that his wife's statements about him could be explained by her mental illness. She was being treated with lithium for bipolar disorder. He would later tell his daughter Allison in private that it wasn't his fault and that her mother died, a statement she found odd, and like it wasn't his fault. Wouldn't you say you didn't do it? You just said it wasn't your fault. And in a recorded phone call by Foster City Police in 2010, Allison again asked him about the death, and he denied responsibility, but reportedly said, as Allison told the LA Times, that it was the best thing that could have happened to her mother. And he said he would have killed her mother. So it says he would have killed her mother for her sake, but someone beat him to it. I mean, that's ridiculous. So he's basically saying he wanted to kill her, but somebody else did it before he could get to it. Still, this was not enough to warrant his arrest 15 years ago, and a court tossed out a wrongful death case brought by Allison Galvani because the statute of limitations had run out. She had waited too long to bring the case, more than 2 years after first suspecting her father's guilt, the court said. As Allison Galvani told the LA Times in 2014 interview, she feels immense guilt for her mother's murder because my father used me as bait to lure my mother to her death. The reason she calls herself my father's alibi is because she said she stayed overnight with Pat. They thought they were talking about her father, and so she turned out to be an alibi at the time. But over the years, they've known that that wasn't true. So why didn't you guys? I mean, this is just stupid. You know, every time, whenever I would talk to Allison about it, it's like there's detectives over there. They're just like, man, this is slam dunk. But it was always the prosecutors sort of delaying, you know, because they just want to get that win. Sometimes you just got to take the chance, you know, when somebody's older, so that justice can be served while they're alive, and if they're found not guilty, whatever. All right, guys, we're still just languishing around. We're currently only at a 10th still of the goal, so if you guys have the ability to help support the channel, I was just hoping to God not to have another night where I have to keep saying, hey, you know, because I got to reach the goals, right? We've only got, we're at 25th, we got 26th, 27th, 28th, 29th, and then the 30th is the final day of the month, and I'd like to be able, you know, the channel's just barely over what it needs to survive amount. This has just been a horrendous month, so if you guys have the ability, that would be fantastic. There's no way around any of it. The car in the garage, the car being moved, you know, the fact that he changed the date to pick her up, and then he has Allison go stay overnight at somebody else's house. I don't know. What do you mean, when does the trial start? He was just arrested. Patrick Galvani was set to make his first court appearance after this latest arrest today, November 25th, and we wait more information about the new evidence that led to the arrest. And she said she hasn't spoken to her dad since 2010, phone call, at least 2014. But one has to wonder if he has privately confessed since then, especially given that he sounded so close to doing so back in 2010. Yeah, well, anyways, there you go. I was thinking of also talking about going over the Kanika Jenkins case, which is back in the news. Go over that again. I've got all the, but I'm trying to transfer off this old external hard drive that I had to purchase that they sent that had all the surveillance on it, but it's such a slow hard drive, I'm transferring the data over somewhere else. Yeah, this is just one of those cases. Well, as soon as I heard about it and went through it, I just go, are you kidding me? This is the most obvious one I've ever seen. This one is just as strong as, like, the Charlie Kirk shooter. You know, it's just, like, simple, obvious. What do you mean, why is it back in the news? What are you talking about? Let's see. Oh, you mean the Kanika Jenkins? I guess the mother, you know, they got a $10 million lawsuit, you know, settlement from the hotel, and she got like $3.5 million. Apparently, people are saying she's out of the money now, and now she's back out there trying to sort of rekindle the story. Stupid. Well, maybe I'll just end this live stream and try to come back on later with the Kanika stuff. I don't know. It just seems dead already. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Got John Wolf, Sandy Shirley, Michelle H., Tracy Antioch, Wild Bill Wassman, Michelle H., Wild Bill Wassman again, and then Bronco Girl. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you later. Be safe. Yeah, I've been doing this true crime thing for quite a while now. And during this whole time, I have not seen one person that is a crime dissector, thug rejector. I'm a certified human lie detector. Gonna get ya on a stretcher if you try and play me like an old projector. Crime sector is my nectar. Professor Grader's gonna give another lecture. Crime collector, freak connector, and I'm always gonna be a pup protector. Fool deflector, interceptor, and I'm meaner than a spectre with a vector on his spectre. With all respect, y'all, just remember I've a total fucking check ya. I have no agenda, I'm no pretender, and I'll serve it to you straight without the blender. And in the end, I'm gonna send ya on a mission to reveal the true offender. Yeah, so I'll just get right back to work. All right, everybody, talk to you later.